everybody, this is Zuko. He's my new off-the-track thoroughbred that I will be entering into the Retired Racehorse Project next year in 2022. He just raced in July 23rd of 2021. He's been at my farm relaxing and cooling down for about 4 or 5 days now. So far I've just turned him out, gotten him on different feed, started transitioning him out of being a racehorse, relaxing him, introducing him to the herd and all that stuff. And so I'm not going to work with him in any sort of riding training anytime soon. Definitely going to let him down for a few months. But one thing I am going to work on today with him, and up until I do start riding him and afterwards as well, is manners on the ground and yielding to pressure. So since Zuko is off of the track, oftentimes they will use chains there just because these are racehorses, they're so energized, and you know, for safety, a lot of times the handlers really like to use chains. Now that he is now off the track, there is not really a need for me to use a chain with him. My training style is less is more. As you see, I have him in a properly fitted rope halter. I'm going to go ahead and turn him around really quick. So one thing that is a result of using a chain all the time is that he's a little dull to pressure. So I have to kind of pull him pretty hard to get him to come and go the direction that I'm going, especially if he's distracted by grass or another horse, or he's just looking at something that's a little bit more interesting. And so what I'm going to work with him on is yielding to very, very light pressure so that I don't have to pull on him and yank on him all the time. Another reason why I do this is because when I do get up onto his back and I start training him under saddle, I want to be able to ride him in a halter. I want to be able to ride him in a simple snaffle without having to bit up or use excessive aids. And so by introducing this on the ground, making sure he's light and supple when I'm just handling him every day, walking around, this will translate greatly when I decide to hop onto his back. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm simply going to ask him to turn and come to me. And what I'm going to do every single time is that I'm going to start with the lightest pressure possible, and then I'm going to slowly escalate until I get a response. And then as soon as I get a response, even if it's just the teeniest bit, I'm going to release my pressure, relax, and let him process it. Very nice. So we worked on this a little bit yesterday. I even filmed it, but then my phone overheated and I lost all of the footage. So he is a little bit familiar with this. We worked on it for about, we worked on it for about 15 minutes. So he caught on very, very quickly, and so you'll see that here. Putting some pressure on the halter here. He's starting to give by backing up, but that's not what I want. I want him to turn towards me and release. There we go. Good boy. Now we'll release and reward that one because he stepped over with his shoulder towards me. An intentional step. So I'll release and reward by releasing my pressure. Giving him a second to think. He licks, he chews. There we go. So it's important as you're doing this to always start from the very, very lightest pressure that you can each time. Even if you have a horse that's bracing heavily, you always want to give them the opportunity to respond to the lightest amount of pressure before you escalate. Because if we don't give them the opportunity, if we skip to the heavy pressure, then we'll never be able to get them in that light pressure if they're always expecting heavy pressure just from the start. ideally, the goal here is for him to go off of a feel, for me not even to necessarily put a lot of pressure on the rope, but by me just picking it up and bringing it towards me, him starting to feel that, then he'll start coming towards me. So I'm increasing pressure very slightly, he's turning towards me, and I release. Very good. I know, you are a nibbly guy. I'm going to let him grab some grass, that'll distract him. Now I'm going to slowly build up pressure. I've got a few pounds on the lead rope now. And I'll release. So one thing that I do is that I'm always trying to get them to respond to the lightest amount of pressure as possible. But one thing that I do enforce is that if they decide to push against that pressure, then I will escalate my pressure in return. So for instance, if I were to start pulling on the rope, asking him to come towards me, and then he pulls me away, in that point, then I would use the end of the lead rope to tap his rear end to move it around so that he's facing me. Very nice, good boy. So another reason why I really like this exercise is it teaches the horse to check in on you. I'm not doing a lot, I'm not making him run around in circles, but every once in a while I'll let him I'll let his mind wander, and then I'll ask him, hey, check in with me a little bit. I really like to teach the horses to check in with their handler, because as you continue training them, it makes things a lot easier when they decide to engage and be like, let's see what they're wanting from me right now. Let's see what it is that they're asking me to do. Yes, you are very nibbly. You're very nibbly. Alrighty, so the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him to yield his hindquarters. And then after that, I'm going to ask him to yield his front half as well. Something that I've also noticed is that he doesn't really have a good concept of space. He kind of gets in my space, and he doesn't really care if I get in his space. But as we're leading, I want to make sure that he's not stepping on me. He's already stepped on me a few times, and so this is something that I will do in order to start to correct that, so that he is more mindful that, okay, this is my handler's bubble. I shouldn't put my feet here. I shouldn't step on them or anything like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring him parallel to the camera so you guys can see. And he's a little sore because we just pulled his shoes. So what I'm going to do here is this, with the front of my lead rope, I'm not going to have a death grip on his face or anything like that, but I'm going to have it short enough that I can prevent him from walking forward. Because what I want him to do is I just want him to yield his hindquarters. I don't want him to walk forward. I don't want him to walk backwards. So as I ask this, again, I lightly introduced this to him the other day, but he still might be a little rusty on it. He's still figuring out exactly what it is that I'm wanting him to do. I'm going to ask him to move his hindquarters over, and he's going to experiment with different things. What is she asking me to do? What does she want me to do? I'm not going to punish any of those things, but I'm going to simply close the door on things that he's not supposed to be doing. So if he tries to walk forward, I'm going to stop him from walking forward. If he wants to walk backwards, I'm going to stop him from walking backwards. I'm going to keep my body language the same the entire time. Keep it nice and calm and regulated. So I'm standing at his shoulder, pointing my eyes and my energy towards his hip. Using the rope, first I'm going to swing it next to him, because this is the lightest amount of pressure that's possible. And then I'm slowly going to start touching him with it. And then he immediately responded. Yesterday when I introduced it to him, he was a little bit more confused. It took him a little while more time to respond, but he started to catch on. And so You're silly. You're nibbly. Alrighty, now we're going to try the other direction. It's important to do everything from both directions, and when you switch directions, you should not expect that your horse will build off of what you already taught in the first direction. You should try to approach it in a sense that from each direction it's going to be completely new to them. So I'm going to start over here. He's starting to think. I'm watching his ears. And there he goes. Beautiful dog. And there he goes. So since I always start with the lightest amount of pressure, then he recognizes that light pressure before I even have to physically apply it to him. Now what I don't want is I don't want him anticipating. So as you see, I'm just trying to stand to his side and he's moving his body over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to rub him and relax when he stays still. If he were to move his body over, I would just keep following until he stopped, and then I would exhale, relax, just so he knows that that's not necessarily what I'm asking for. All right. Very good boy. All right. Very good boy. He's very smart. I'm super excited to work with him. It's 15 minutes and he caught on to all of it. I was coming here this morning thinking, oh, he probably has lost some of it. He probably still needs some hammered in, but I'm pleasantly surprised. And so as we do this training, I always do it nice and slow, taking breaks between everything, looking for things like this, the yawning, the chewing, the licking, all of that stuff. Constantly looking at where his ears are, where he's paying attention to, reading his body language as we go through all of this process. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach him to yield the forehand. I'm going to teach him to yield his shoulders away from me. This is particularly important, especially for this horse, because he likes to step on you accidentally. Well, not likes to, but he will step on you accidentally as you're leading him. He gets a little bit too close. And so by teaching him how I ask him to move away from me with his forehand will prevent this in the future, will help create safe space for the handler, and teach him to be mindful of where his feet are, where his body is, in comparison to where I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand in between his eye and his shoulder. I'm going to do a similar thing that I did with the hindquarters, except now it's going to be in the forehand. I'll let him itch. I always want to set up my horses for success, so if I see that they're distracted by something like itching or picking at a fly or something like that, I will wait, let them solve the issue, and then I will start. I blocked him from going forward. I'm blocking him from going backwards. There we go, and that's what I want. He had a little bit of a protest there. He bopped me with his lips there. He didn't catch skin or anything. He didn't bite me. That's okay. I allow horses to express themselves, but they are not allowed to put their handler in danger. So if he were to nip me, then I would escalate, just so he knows that that is not allowed. Handling him here by the knot. I'm not putting pressure on his halter. but my hand is just there so that I can stop him from moving forward and backwards, as I anticipate him to, because he is not familiar with this forehand exercise. And I may also hold him right here as well, in case he starts to get a little mouthy, a little nibbly. He's shifting his weight, he's thinking about stuff, he's lifting that left foot, figuring out where he should put it. He just moved the right one over just a slight bit. I'm going to make light contact now. There we go, an intentional step over. So when we are training something, any intentional movement towards what we are asking for, I will reward by giving the release of pressure. Over time, I can start to ask for duration, I can start to ask for more intricate things, but when we are first introducing something, once you see the slightest effort in the direction that you're looking for, release, reward, and let them process it. All right. Let's go again. I can already see him shifting his weight. He's moving his ears, thinking about where we go. He's looking in front of him now. He's decided to pay attention to something else. So I'm going to make a light contact here, get his attention back on me. He made one step over, and there he goes. Beautiful. So, in the long run, like I said, I'm wanting him to just turn his forehand, pivoting on the hind end, but he made an intentional step over. And so I'm going to reward that, and then we can refine it later on, once he has a better understanding of what I'm asking him to do. And I'm a very positive reinforcement-based type of trainer. I use treats a lot, and I pluck with my tongue as a marker to tell horses when they are doing what I am asking them to do. However, when I'm working with a new horse, I always like to set boundaries first before introducing treats, because if we do the treats first and boundaries later, that's when they can get pushy, muggy, things like that. And so I want to establish what is and is not okay with him first, get a good relationship, and then once we are at the place where I want to start teaching him more intricate things, in which it would be more helpful for me to have a way to tell him, yes, that's exactly what I want, that's when I will start using positive reinforcement clicker type training, marker training. Alright, now I'm going to try it from the other direction. Like I said before, when you switch directions, just assume that you're starting from a blank slate. He's shifting his weight, his ears are on the rope, he's thinking about it. A loss of movement, so I'm going to make slight contact. Very good. I'll let you yawn, I'll let you chew, I'll let you think about it. Nice little head shake there. Nice little yawn. Very good. This is why I always do my training very slow. It might be boring to some, but I think it is really important. I think the most important part of the training is the rest, to let them process things and digest them. As you can see, we've been standing here for a few minutes, and now he's starting to lick and chew. Now he's starting to yawn. A lot of times, especially some horses that can be more stoic, they will just sit there with tension, but not showing it necessarily, until a little while later when they finally do relax, and then the brain cogs start turning. Alright, let's try this again. Got his ear on it, he's thinking. I'm shifting his weight. I'm telling him, no, not backwards, not forwards. What are we asking? He's getting frustrated. He's pushing me with his nose. I'm just going to stay consistent with him. Not going to escalate. Got his attention on something else slightly. And make some contact. There we go. We had one step. Now notice he was getting a little bit frustrated there. That's okay. He's got a low threshold right there. Right now, things are completely new to him. He's still settling in. So it's important that if he's getting frustrated, if he's at his threshold, that I just stay calm and consistent with him so that I can be a pillar of stability as he figures things out. Alright, let's go back to the other side. It's important not to get stuck on one side or the other, but to constantly move back and forth, changing up exercises, changing up directions that you do it, just so you're not like sitting there and just hammering the same thing in over and over and over again. Then you kind of get a little brain dead. Nice and lightly. Just thinking, where should I put this foot? We moved over. I'm gonna give that a release. Even though that was just a little inch, I didn't have to touch him with the lead rope at all, and so I am going to reward that. All right. He's shifting his weight already. He's lifting up that leg. You cross it over just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And I will release. Alright, so now that we've gotten somewhere with the front half, I'm going to go back to the back half, the hindquarters. The reason why I switch back and forth as well is because since this is a similar cue on different parts of the body, I want to make sure that he can differentiate from his hindquarters to his forehand. Beautiful. So that time I didn't even have to swing the rope. I simply focused my energy and he complied. Very good boy. Move his forehand over. Just thinking, where should I put this? Where should I move this leg? I'll give you a little idea to help. There you go, that's it. Good boy. We've got some construction going, so his attention is flickering back and forth, but that's okay. Alright, so now that we've done all of that, I'm going to work on backing just a little bit. A little bit of pressure on the nose needs to go back. So this is also very important because I like to, when I lunge my horses, I have them back away from me before I turn them out so that if they have any sillies to get out, they're not doing it in my space. And then also when I get up on his back, I will be able to ride him in a rope halter perfectly fine if I can get him to yield left, right, and back. So I'm going to have him come parallel to you so that you can see. And now that I've done all these exercises, he will lead on a loose lead. Whereas before, I would kind of have to pull him around and ask him to come with me. But now he goes off of just the light pressure that the lead rope moving creates on his halter. Alright, so when I ask him to back, I'm going to stand facing the same direction he's facing because that's how I will be in the saddle. Doesn't really matter that much because when I start to ask him to back on the lunge, I'll be facing him, but the cue will be slightly different. So for right now, we're just focusing on him yielding to pressure. And so this is the most efficient direction for me to be facing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the lead rope right here. I'm going to pull directly back, very, very softly at first, slowly escalating until I feel him shift his weight. Even if I don't get a full step, I just want him to shift his weight to yield to this pressure. All right. There we go. And a little release here. I know these flies are starting to come out. All right. All right, we're gonna go once more. Pushing his face away from me. I don't want him to come towards me. And he stepped a little bit too close to me there. So I'm gonna ask him to move his forehand over. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so light pressure. Very nice. Now we'll let him sit and process.